What's going on, guys? This is Danny from Slow Restoration. We have a 2006 Cadillac STS. We're going to do belts on it, and if you're watching this and you're going to do this job and I know what you're already asking. Yes, you do have to remove this. The belt does wrap around through part of this. So there's two belts on here, the front belt, the back belt, and you do have to remove that. It's not near as bad as you're thinking, though. You can leave the fan on. You got one bolt here, one bolt down there, and one bolt on the passenger side here, and then you can slip that whole assembly back far enough to get that belt, actually both belts, through there. It's a 2006 Cadillac STS 4. It does have the NorthStar V8 motor. It is all-wheel drive, so this car is a little bit rare, but I think probably everything about doing the belts on this is going to be probably the same. So obviously, I just said it, we're going to do some serpentine belts, and they're pretty much, when you open the hood of these Cadillacs, you can't really see a whole lot of anything. So first thing we're going to do is remove all these plastic covers. Probably won't have to remove that side, but this front one and this driver's side one will remove. They're pretty easy to do. You just twist these things. They unscrew. That one's broke. Twist them. It releases the pin. Sometimes they go flying when you pull them off. Make sure you have them all the way out. So we'll go ahead and finish removing these. Like I said, they're a push clip, but instead of push pull, they do screw out. So we'll get these off and we'll catch back up with you. With those two covers off, you still can't really see all that much. So let's go ahead and pull this engine cover off. Take the power steering cap off here. Set that to the side. Oil fill cap, set that to the side, and this just pops off. It's got some push clips. Pull it off so we don't drop anything down in. We're going to put the caps back on. And now we're starting to actually see some stuff here. Definitely down into the motor. We're going to go ahead and remove this whole airbox assembly. We'll pop this coolant line out. Give us a little bit more room. You kind of just fold it back. It won't stay, but you can fold it back as you're pulling it out. We do have to unclip the mass airflow sensor. There's a bolt here, and I think that just comes out, and of course we'll undo the clamp here at the throttle body. So let's get that pulled out. With those unbolted, this unbolted, and there is a vent tube that goes into the air duct here. So now we're all loose. Like I said, we can fold that back and we can pull this whole box assembly right up and out of there. All right, now we're getting somewhere. We can actually see the front of the motor here. One of our belts is here. Here's one of our tensioners. So this motor is kind of unique. The fan does not run off of the, normally it would probably run off the water pump. It actually runs off the crank, and there's a hub there with like a 3-bolt, 3-legged stand with a bearing in it, as you can see here. So we need to disassemble that because the belt routes through that, which is obviously a problem because you can't get the belt out. So we're removing the bolts off this 3-bolt flange. See if that's enough room to slide this back towards the radiator and fish that belt through there. If it's not, then we'll have to remove the belt, or the fan rather, off that hub and then disassemble it that way. Alright, so now we can get kind of a better look at this hub assembly. There is, like I said, 3 bolts. One leg at the top, one leg on the driver's side, and one leg on the passenger side. And as you can see, we should have just enough room to slip that belt through there and get it changed. So we don't have to disassemble the whole fan assembly, which is good. and we'll start with removing this belt. It's got two belts. This belt drives, it looks like, probably the water pump, power steering pump, and the air conditioner. And the belt over here just drives the alternator. So we'll remove this belt first. Again, always take note of how your belt routing is. I don't know if there's a routing diagram on this car. I don't see one. So take a picture if you need to, even draw a diagram if you need to. But it needs to go back on the same way as you take it off. This belt is also kind of unique in it's got ribs on both sides. So once I get it off, I'll show you. But yeah, it's a little unusual. This car, like I said, is a little bit of an oddball. So of course there's the tensioner right up top here. It's a 1/2 inch square, so we can take a 1/2 inch socket and put right in there. These do have a little bit of tension on, so you really got to push. But once we push it down, we can slip it off a pulley, release this tensioner, and then finish taking the belt out. Now you have to be careful coming through here. Remember, this fan is close to the radiator, so you don't want to just jam it back. We'll have to turn the belt sideways and pull it through the balancer there. And also it goes around the back side of this tensioner, so we'll have to kind of do the same thing, kind of turn the belt sideways and slip it down past. Once you got that, you pull the belt out. And like I said, this belt's a little bit odd because it has grooves on both sides of it. It doesn't really look bad, but one of these belts had a bad squeak to it. It was intermittent. Sometimes it would be extremely loud, sometimes it would actually go away. So while that belt is off, well, we have to take that one off, and then we have to remove the back belt there too. But why these belts are off, we're going to check all of our tensioner pulleys, idler pulleys, tensioner pulleys, all of our make sure there's nothing worn, nothing that's squeaking when we spin it, just to confirm it's nothing else going on. All right, now that we have that belt off out of the way, we checked everything. Everything seems to be in good order. The other belt, like I said, is down here, runs the alternator. One issue we may be having with this is the valve covers on this seem to be seeping, and it may be contaminating the belt. I don't see anything slinging off the belt, but everything is kind of wet, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Now, let's see if I can get my GoPro down in here. Right, I gotta need some light too. So right there is the tensioner, and it is a 3/8 square. So we'll get the tension off that, and that's just a straight loop over to the alternator. With the tension off that, we can pull that belt out. Again, we have to squeeze it through the, get the light out of our eyes here. Squeeze it through that wishbone thing, the coupler there at the crank. But now we have both belts off. Now this one is cracked up pretty good, so that may have been our noise. But regardless, we're putting both belts on new, so we'll eliminate that. Always try and match your belts up. This one is, again, the alternator, and it's a Gates part number K050370 or 5PK943. All right, so we're going back together now. We slipped the alternator belt that needs to go on first, of course. So we slipped it around this assembly. Now we'll just route it on around the tensioner, pull the tensioner, and then we can slip it on the alternator in your normal fashion. All right, as you can see down there, we got that belt on without any issues. It's not hard at all. The hardest thing is actually reaching down through all these hoses, and especially getting two arms or two hands down there. But we got it on there. That one's looking good. Now we'll move over to this side, and this one takes that double-sided belt. Again, we have to slip it behind the tensioner. We have to slip it behind the pulley assembly here, and then we'll get it routed and get it slipped on. All right, we got that belt all routed on there also. There's actually the part number. See if we can get a light there. Look at, looks like it's 5DPK 1550. And I think that's a Gates belt also. So if you happen to forget your belt routing, here's a good visual. I'll just pause there for a second. But it's pretty much, it goes around everything, and then that center tensioner, it's not even tensioner, neither pulley, it goes up and around. The rest of it just kind of loops through. So now we need to go back and reattach this. Our belts are actually done at this point. We just need to go back and reattach this cradle system for the fan. So it slips back on. There's some dowels coming off the crank with some rubber couplers. It slips back on there, and then we have the 3 bolts to tighten up that actually attaches it to the block. And with that tightened back up, that's pretty much it. All we have to do is reinstall our air box, hook that up, and reinstall the covers. With the air box laid back in there, we're going to tighten up our clamp. Don't forget your vent tube here. Bolt here, bolt here. And plug in our mass airflow sensor. Make sure you hear it click. And all we have to do is put the covers back on, and we're done. There you have it, guys. Nice and quiet. She's running. You always want to start them up and just watch the belt run. Make sure everything is on track. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.